Okay, I've got about 3 after on my clock, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. I want to thank you for joining us today and let you know that we are going to go ahead and record the session, so we can post this out on the website later, and you'll be able to view it and share it with others. But our topic today is pipelining, and it seemed like it was a pretty popular one, especially on a cold day like today, being able to stay warm. So I hope each of you are able to do that today as well. I'm going to start out with just showing what well, I'll tell you a little bit about pipelining first, I guess, just a little background. So pipelining is what allows you to go out in the field without an internet connection and still be able to have your data entry. So you can create your daily work reports, your diaries, and also sample records. And then once you're done out in the field, you can come back into the office, hook back up to the internet, and be able to pipeline that from the information stored on your laptop or computer and have that put back onto the server. That's the basic idea there. Yeah, it's a good tool. Oh, and also I should introduce Zach Brashears is helping me today, and he'll be if we have sometimes we have feedback on the microphone, so if there's feedback, just make sure that you're muted. But if you do need to say something, just unmute it and speak right up. And I definitely encourage that. It's really helpful as I'm going along here. So the first thing I want to show you, though, is what the standalone version of Site Manager looks like before anything's been pipelined into it. So to log into standalone, you get the same screen. I just started up Site Manager here. And then instead of connecting to the server, you're able then to select the standalone option. And I'm going to log in throughout our sessions today. I'm going to log in as a project manager just because they have a little bit extra security and are then able to see some of the functionality that you might not see as an inspector. Okay, so once we're logged in here, we still have pretty similar icons interface, and a lot of the contract administration is here just for reference. So if I go in to look to see if there's any contracts on this, oh, I do have a contract in here already. Forgot to pipeline that one back out. But normally a blank standalone database that hasn't been pipelined in won't have any contract data in here. Likewise with the daily work reports, you'd be able to come into here, but wouldn't actually have a contract. Oh, it looks like I don't have a contract signed in here. So maybe I had done that and it just got kind of left over. But you can see without having pipeline data out, I don't actually have anything to connect my daily work report to. And so I can't even really do a lot at this point. So just wanted to give kind of a little bit of a look of what it would be like without having pipelined out first. And then also on the materials management, the sampling and testing, once you have actually pipelined out the materials data, you can go ahead and create your sample records in here and be able to link it into your different materials and stuff. So I'll briefly step through that, but the main idea in this presentation is just to look at the pipelining itself. So I'll close back out. I'm going to start back up. So now I'm going to pretend that I'm actually in the office. So which fortunately I am. So we're going to connect to the server and log in. Go down to Project Manager. And the pipeline icon is where we're going to be interested in today. So when I click on there, now you have basically two different icons to look at. And at first, I thought these were a little bit confusing. I was trying to understand what it meant. I was like, what's server to pipeline or to PM, and PM to server? And it's basically just the direction that the data is going. So if I'm going from the server to the PM, that's going to put it onto my local computer and prepare it for standalone mode. And if it's going from the PM to the server, that means I've been out in the field. I'm ready to return the data to the server. So in this case, we're getting ready to go out to the field, and so I want to have my contract available to me and be able to link my records to it. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the server to PM. And it pulls up our screen here. On our screen, we've got our different tabs. We have the pipeline summary. You can actually select diaries, daily work reports, even change orders, and force accounts and users select. I don't recommend it. Sometimes the system can get a little bit confused on where that data is at. It does lock the data when you have it checked out. Well, not all of the data. It locks diaries and DWRs if you have them checked out. So if you happen to not have checked in your pipelined out data, it's not going to allow you to edit it when you're back on the server without first checking it in. Hope that made sense. It also doesn't, it does have some limitations. I'm going to just say, stick with just creating the records on standalone for the most part. So the first step of actually pipelining out the data is going to be to open the contract that you want to be working with. And you'll see just the contracts that are available to you through Contract Authority. I'm in the demo environment, so we have some weird looking contracts. We have different letters on them. I'm just going to select our first one here. And then you have two different options. You have the basic contract data, and you want to select that one every time you're checking something out. And if you're going to do sample records, you'll also need to check out the materials. I'm going to go ahead and check them both out. If you're in a hurry, sometimes the materials part of it can take a little bit longer. But we've actually done some work on this to speed it up, and it's now down to about a minute or two. So hopefully it won't. Hopefully I can kind of buy us some time as we're talking. Do we have actually any questions up to this point? And if you do have a question, just feel free to unmute your microphone and then ask away. One of the things that we can actually watch here as it's actually checking out the data, we have the status line. So we have a little bit of an idea of where it's at. And it's actually had just finished the materials data. And this part of it usually goes pretty quick where it's working on the contract data. All right. So there it shows us that the checkout is complete. That means that it's ready for us to grab our laptop and head out into the field. So I'll close down Site Manager and drive out to my work site. And I sometimes recommend changing this first. I don't know about you, but sometimes I type in my password quick and I hit enter and then it tries to log into the server. So if I don't catch that right away. All right. Okay, go back in as project manager. Okay, now when I go into my daily work report, I'll be able to pull up the specific contract that I'm wanting to work on. Oh, sorry, this is the first one that I've made. Has that ever caught you guys before? When you're working on your first daily work report, you get in there and you try and you click open and it's like, where's my record? Well, it's because you got to hit choose keys. And there we see our contract. All right. So this is my first daily work report, and you're going to have all the same functionality that you would have if you were actually connected to the server. So at this point, we're out in the field. We're not connected to the internet. And I'm going to make it actually like today. I think we're supposed to have a high of about 70, right? It's 7. And it's clear. And I was telling Rick earlier that I woke up and it was about -7. So, all right. So I got my basic information on there. Still able to connect it to my contractor. And I'm just going to jump over and we'll link it in. We'll do some mobilization today. Don't know why we do mobilization today, but we will. And we're going to do half of it and select our contractor, and that was near the bridge. All right. So at that point, we've got the daily work report saved, and it's good to go. So when we get back to the office, we'll be able to put that in there. We can do the same thing with diary entries and be able to create those out here in the field. I can even authorize it, hit save. You have the option to be able to add your milestones to it. And I'm also just going to show just a quick representation of our entering a sampling record. The one thing to remember actually throughout each of these sections is that if you do already have a either a DWR, a diary, or a sample record that's already on the server, make sure not to create that same date or that same sample record on standalone. It's going to create a conflict and you won't be able to put it back from standalone onto the server. So I'm trying to remember what sample records I have in there. This is kind of our testing environment, so I don't think I have that one in there. Just going to quick step through some of this. All right. So there we have a sample record, and I'm going to go ahead and even link it up to a lab and assign some tests to it. We're just going to do a small quantity on this one. All right. So we've got all that information that we just put in while we're out in the field. And in the day, we're ready to head back to the office. And so I will log back in once I get back into the office here. I'll be on the server. Select my project manager role. Okay. So now I'm back in the office and I've been in the field and I want to go to the server. So select this one. And you can actually check out multiple contracts. So you have to select which one you're going to check in information from. I'm going to select this one. And I should be able to click on these other tabs and now have information about my diary was in there. Come over here, select my DWR. So if you had multiple ones or you started one out there and didn't really want to finish it, you don't have to check it in. You can leave it sitting on your standalone server, and you can either abandon it out there or choose to check it in at a later time. Once you do check a record in, you won't have access to it to edit it anymore in standalone. And I do actually have a couple sample records out there. So I just want this one. I'm was just messing around with that one, so I'm not going to check it in. Okay, to actually check it in, it's under services. You'll see that I can't do it from this tab. You have to come back to your pipeline summary tab, and that'll then give you the option to check the data back in. Oh, before I do that, I mean, just, you know, for fun, I want to make to show that it doesn't actually show up. You know, I'm on the server here. I'm going to look at the sample record. And so if I went in there, I know I created, you know, sample record 11, but I'm like, well, hey, it didn't pull it open. So that I didn't actually have it on the server yet. So when I look over here, I can see, okay, yeah, I'm going to check that in, and it'll give me a status of what it's doing.
Hey, Brad?
Yeah.
Have you noticed on when you're doing samples out in the field that some of the things you may not be able to finish the sample, like some of the tests may not be available to fill out until you get hooked onto the server?
Yep, that is correct. There are some templates that they just don't have access to all of the data that's available. We weren't able to transfer it all out because it's a lot of information. And so some of it needs reference data in order to be able to fill out the templates. And so for those, you can assign the test, but you can't actually fill out the details of it until it's back in on the server.
I remember some of that from when I was in the field. I think some of the inspectors have asked me about it, you know, here recently too. So.
Yeah, most of a lot of and Bob, if you want to correct me on this, if things have changed, but I think most of the templates that are field marked as field templates, you're able to fill those out actually in the field and or in standalone, and then be able to authorize them and stuff even out there. But if it has information that's going to be filled out in a lab, then you know, that's something that's going to have to come onto the server before it can actually be filled out and completed. So do you have any additional information on that for me, Bob, or see if he's paying attention or not?
I noticed it was like some of the concrete things, you know.
Yeah. Let me jump in there. So I went ahead and pipeline that record back up. So I'm going to see if I can open that. Yeah, so now we have our sample. It's been transferred from my local computer onto the server, and I can come over and see it here as being available. And so this, of course, once we're on the server, we can fill that out. We can go back and try it once more and kind of have an example set up. But before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and I just want to show that the daily work report and that diary entry are now on the server as well. Yeah, so we can see I've got my diary here, or sorry, my daily work report. And I can see that I've got my diary entry here as well. And here you'll note that I see all my other diary entries. When I was out in the standalone, I didn't see all these other ones out there. And that's because they weren't checked out. That would be one reason, you know, if you wanted to be able to reference back to your other data while you're in standalone. If I come back into here, and I can show here, it allows me to see everything that's out there, whether it's been hooked up. So if I just want to be able to reference all that information, then I can select those. Okay. And same thing here. I want to go ahead and be able to see those while I'm actually out in the field, just to be able to reference them. And because I'd already checked out my materials data, I don't have to check that out every time. And it does add a little bit additional time to it when you're checking out the additional information here too, because it's grabbing all of the data associated with that particular record. Okay. So there our checkout's complete. Head back out into the field here. I just want to show that those records are available, and then I'll look at the add that sample information too. So now, because I had checked out records along with that, I was able to hit open, be able to pull those up, and I can see, okay, yeah, look at my information on it, just have it for reference. Okay, so yeah, our question then was on our sample information when we are in standalone, and we can see now because I've checked this sample record in, I don't have access to it anymore. I'm not able to edit it in any way, even the sampling here. So I didn't think it would allow me to do that. It doesn't allow you to recheck this in though once it has been checked in. So even if I make the changes here, it's not going to keep going across. Okay, so let's do sample number 12. And do you have a good example for the material and the test that you want me to look at? Oh, add them all. Let's try them out here. But there should be a limitation to which ones of these I can actually fill out here, just because it's not going to have access to the server. And actually, what's probably a good example here? Well, the strength test probably shouldn't.
And I think that the proportion report, I don't know if that one will either.
Yeah, like this is a lab test, so it's not going to show up for you. Proportion.
I can't remember if that one does or not.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to allow me here. Sometimes there is information. Let's try the other one just to see if that was. But it may just be kind of a matter of a little bit of a hit and miss. Yeah, like this one, particularly because it's looking for a mix design on another sample record. So if you don't have that particular sample record pipelined out, it's not going to be able to see it even. So this would be as far as you could go on this template.
Gotcha.
So that would be some of the types of reasons that you wouldn't see some of your actual test templates being available.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah, that pretty much concludes my presentation for today. Are there any other questions, follow-up? All right. Well, I want to thank you for joining us, and if you come up with something later, just shoot us an email or a phone call and let us know.
Thanks, Brad.
Yep, you bet. Have a great day.